Welcome, friends, and thank you for being with us today. In our reflective process, before beginning this immersion into the three techniques, we are reviewing the virtues of the rays. For as trained observers, or learning the ways of the trained observers, we note that we must be aware of all of the virtues of all of the rays so that we can note those in all of our relationships. And when we move to the attitude and altitude of the observer, we can focus on the higher resonance of each of the rays as we move forward together in integrating. So by means of the technique of light, the illumined mind assumes control over the astral body and dissipates glamour. When light pours in, glamour fades out. Illumination dominates, and the vision of reality can be seen. And it produces the ability to tread the path of discipleship and enables all men and women of goodwill to live a life enlightened by divinity. Illumination is the applied power of transformation. Using the creative imagination, hold a vision of your being illumined. Transformed. The groups with which you are working and affiliated, transformed. The nations, transformed. The world, transformed. By means of the technique of indifference, Maya is ended. For the control of the purified astral vehicle is consciously and technically brought into activity, producing the freeing of the energies of the etheric body from the control of matter or force substance, and bringing men and women into large numbers onto the probationary path, into relationship with soul consciousness, the birth of the Christ in the heart. Where there is divine indifference to the call or pull of matter, then inspiration becomes possible. This technique is related to karma yoga in its more practical form and the use of matter with complete impersonality, enabling one to live a life inspired by God. Inspiration is the applied power of transmission. Using the creative imagination, hold a vision of your being inspired as the transmitting agent of the soul. The groups with which you are working and affiliated as transmitting the radiance of the soul. The nations transformed as cooperative entities, as agents for the plan for humanity. and the world evolving in alignment with the plan as the hierarchy is externalized. Energy follows thought, and the I directs the energy, involving the physical plane and relating to the first initiation by beginning to use the technique of indifference to devitalize Maya. Envision all those on the precipice of the first initiation. I directing the energy, involving the physical plane. The left eye of Manas and the right eye of Buddhi. Energy follows thought. This concerns the ajna center and the so-called third eye that develops after the first initiation and moving toward the second. The will then is an expression of the law of sacrifice involving the astral plane, and eventually the astral fogs disappear, culminating in the second initiation. The baptism of solar fire and recognition of the burning ground. Energy follows thought concerns the heart center, the advancing point of light. For the monad is the planetary logos, is to the planetary logos what the third eye is to humanity, to men and women everywhere on the path of discipleship. This involves the mental plane and relates to the third initiation. The awakening of full awareness of the dweller on the threshold. Visualize in your mind's eye the higher spiritual eye, this advancing point of light, the first spark or glimmer of the monad. And for those who persist and move past the third initiation, energy follows thought, concerns the head center, the light of purpose. We're reminded that none of these stages are in reality divided off from each other by clear lines of demarcation, nor do they follow each other in a clear sequence as the ajna center opens and eventually merges with the crown center. As we unite as a group in the group ajna center, which is the world-serving group, that bridge between humanity and hierarchy, we recognize all the ashramic projects. We recognize the influence of all the rays and the virtues of those rays coming together in greater unity. And we recognize in each of our serving groups the influence of all of the ray ashrams, where there are representatives from each of the ray groups in all of our world groups, working on practical projects and bringing forth soul consciousness for humanity. By means of the technique of the presence, the soul assumes control of the integrated personality and of its relations, horizontal and vertical. This technique involves the unfolding of the flower of the intuition, dispelling illusion, revealing the angel, indicating the presence, the monadic spark, and opening up to the disciple the world of ideas and the door of the higher initiations. Consider your own groups now, your affiliations, as well as those present with us today, as those who are unfolding the flower of the intuition, who are dispelling illusion, those revealing the angel, and those indicating the presence, and together opening up the world of ideas and the door of the higher initiations. For that is happening for all in our groups. We do not all speak the same language. We do not all use the same words, but the essence behind, substanding our work together, is through each one's grasp and application of these divine ideas or seed thoughts. We stand together in a new unity at each point as we meet. In each group, we bring together those from all of the groups into a growing unity. Through this, the disciple becomes an initiate, and the third initiation becomes possible as an immediate goal. The intuition is the applied power of transfiguration. This technique is related to the little-known yoga called Agni Yoga, or the yoga of fire. Envision the merging and blending of the ashramic ray energies in each of our group gatherings, in all our group meditations, informing us in time and space, but more importantly, telepathically, of the transitions, the merging and blending of the ray virtues to move humanity forward. And in our work as trained observers, to dissipate the glamours that act as hindrances, as limitations in group service. And to hold to the best of our ability, the highest spark of the angel of the presence overshadowing all of our group work. We see the greatest light. So let us remember Master DK's teachings and the presence. Stage by stage, each person progresses from one state of illusion or glamour to another, from one point of discriminative opportunity to another, until we have developed three major capacities: the capacity to handle force, the capacity to tread the middle way between the pairs of opposites. We dissipate the glamours, and the capacity to use the intuition to dispel illusion. And as DK says, we must bear in mind that none of these three stages are in reality divided off from each other. They proceed with much overlapping and often with a partial simultaneity. This appears to individuals as confusing. It is only then when the disciple faces certain initiations that they can awaken to the fact of these distinctions. So hold the ambiguity if that is your experience. When you are experiencing a group process, a person's progress along the path, hold that in the presence so that you can use the intuition and dispel the illusion that resides in your approach, knowing that we have these three major capacities. So before we begin, let us align as soul and as a group and see our group approaching Master Dwal Kul's study. We'll very quickly assume the attitude of the observer, envisioning the bodies and the aura in a unity. We're able to envision and imagine the interconnections, the elemental and Davic streams that are flowing in, relating these three spheres, these bodies, connecting the auras in a single unified field that we experience. And remember the words of Roberto Assagioli: I have a body, I am not my body. I have emotions, I am not my emotions. I have a mind, I am not my mind. Now lift the attention within these united spheres to the highest point, which is also the deepest point of life within your being, the soul, and say, I am the soul. I am light divine. I am love. I am will. I am fixed design. Let's use the visualization of meditations 1 and 2. I am the soul. I am light divine. I am love. I am will. I am fixed design. My will is now to lift the lower self into the light divine. Therefore, I must descend to where the lower self awaits my coming. That which desires to lift and that which cries aloud for lifting are now at one. And on the Om, we lift the energy in each of our beings and within the group soul, life. From the group personality, we lift from the solar plexus on an Om to the heart, the group heart, and then lift on an Om up the spinal channel of the group being to the group throat center, purifying the throat center to the Altamesa center, purifying all the lower centers as they lift to the mind, the heart and the head. And we visualize it with the purified ajna center of the world serving group with which we are aligned and unified. Oh. And to the group head center or crown. Oh. And now in this unified field, we sound the united Om with all serving groups. Om. Pausing to develop our group focus in dissipation of glamour, using the creative imagination controlled by the mind, transmitting an image from the abstract mind onto the astral field, facing the group members as if eye to eye, the spiritual eye to the spiritual eye, establishing a soul-to-soul connection. And we withdraw from any personal and world affairs and center on the work to be done, setting up a magnetic field of positive, receptive activity. We include those not with us today and those joining us from the other side of the veil. Our aim is to embody spiritual discernment, to then practice positive harmlessness, and eventually